I'd like to start by thanking the First Ascents team for asking me to speak tonight. As always, I consider it an honor and a privilege to say anything on behalf of First Ascents. On May 2nd, 2006, I was diagnosed with an extraskeletal myxoid chondrosarcoma, or maybe it was an extraskeletal myxoid liposarcoma. My doctors don't really agree on this topic. It doesn't really matter what it was. They're both rare, aggressive, unresponsive to treatment, and kill both efficiently and very quickly. After brief consideration, I concluded that radical surgery was my only viable option. So a month after my diagnosis, I had my left leg amputated below the knee. A month after that, I had a thyroidectomy to remove an unrelated papillary carcinoma discovered during my preliminary scans. And 3 weeks after being discharged from the hospital post-thyroidectomy, I headed straight back to the emergency room. A severe allergic reaction to my chemotherapy landed me in critical condition in the ICU for over a month. In a period of 6 months, from the time of my diagnosis to my emergence from the inpatient physical rehab, I transformed from an active, relatively healthy 30-year-old into a trembling shadow of my former self. Not only had I lost 30 pounds, but also my fingernails, my toenails, several sheets of skin from my hands and feet, and most of the hair on my body. I couldn't walk. I could hardly sit up in bed without assistance. After 2 months on feeding tubes, hardly a meal went by that I didn't wonder whether the food would settle or come right back up. I was constantly nauseous and perpetually tired. I was terrified of falling down the stairs, of falling in the shower, of falling into the stove. The neuropathy in my hands and feet left me anxious about dropping plates and glassware. I was unable to button a shirt, to zip my pants, or to tie a shoe. And even donning socks and underwear was a lengthy and very painful process. It was in this condition that I came across a First Ascents brochure. I wasn't at all confident then that I'd be able to successfully attempt any of the physical activities described in the brochure, but it sounded like fun, so I filled out a form and dropped it in the mail. That may have been the single most important action I took on behalf of my own post-treatment recovery, rivaled only by my enrollment in group therapy. I started pushing myself physically even before I landed in Colorado for camp. For the first time, I left my crutches at home, and I haven't used them outside the house a single time since then. That first night at camp, each camper met individually with the medical team. We reviewed my charts, my particular needs, and our mutual expectations for the week. It was immediately clear to me that I was in a safe and very supportive environment, and so I decided to challenge myself at every opportunity. The majority of my recovery has been focused primarily on learning how to do activities I've always done in new and slightly different ways. And for the most part, I get by okay. I can walk and swim and ski and even stumble around a tennis court. I don't do this as technically proficiently as I did before cancer, but I still have just as much fun competing, and I could probably take a few sets off everyone in the crowd. But I had never before been whitewater kayaking, and I didn't really know what to expect. I was more curious than nervous, and certainly excited to try it. Day 2 on the water, much to my own surprise and delight, I completed a combat roll after tipping over in the rapids. I didn't get up on the first try, or the second, but I simply held my breath and floated calmly upside down in the river, willing myself not to panic, and visualizing what Forrest had taught me only minutes earlier. And when, on my third attempt, I snapped to the surface of the water, I felt like I could probably do anything. I was so alive in that instant, so empowered and so comfortably at ease in my own body for the first time in over a year. I will absolutely remember that moment for the rest of my life. The period during my cancer treatment and early recovery was dominated by an overwhelming sense of loss of control and a feeling of utter fragility. I hardly think I'm unique in this respect. The loss of control in particular seems to be an especially universal component of many people's cancer experience. Having one's physical body attack itself is both confusing and discomforting. I think this is deeply upsetting for young patients whose age and physical fitness have previously provided little experience of the body's tendency toward degeneration. Instead of the slow and constant physical decline that accompanies the aging process, the experience of cancer, or of any life-threatening trauma, I would imagine, comes like a slap in the face. It's an instant and visceral reminder of our mortality. Without the proper therapy and emotional encouragement, it's not hard to imagine why many of us would withdraw from the world in an instinctive act of self-preservation. From fear of the unknown darkness, we paradoxically shut ourselves away from the light. But for those who approach cancer as a challenging opportunity, rather than a curse, the journey offers a bounty of lessons. Chief among these, that strength has little to do with physical prowess. Strength is holding on until you can't anymore, and then holding on a little bit longer. Strength is knowing your truth and admitting how you really feel. Strength is asking for help when you want it and accepting help when you really need it. True strength is about knowing how to love. All that really matters is that we continue to learn and to love. Too often, I think we focus on survival as the goal, but equating survival with success, we make the error of equating death with failure. And since every one of us is destined to die, this assumption sets us up to fail. A conscious death after life lived with presence is the ultimate success story. If we're dreading death as an indication of failure, then we're doomed to fail. And that's no way to live. So ask yourself, are you still open to learning? And do you have love in your life? And if you can honestly answer these questions with a yes, then you're succeeding. First Ascents provides a unique opportunity to a singularly underserved population of cancer survivors, young adults facing terminal illness in the prime of life. I'd like to offer my personal gratitude to Brad and Corey for their vision and for their commitment to making this program a reality, as well as to the staff and volunteers who keep it running day to day. Every one of you inspires me to be a better person. Your teaching renews confidence, your encouragement celebrates fearlessness, and at every turn, your actions affirm hope and love. My medical treatment undoubtedly saved my life, but First Ascents reminded me how I want to live that life. So I urge all of you here tonight to spend freely this evening. Your generous donations will no doubt resurrect unfettered aspirations and a delightful appreciation for life in the hearts and minds of some young people who really need it. I know I did, so thank you for that gift.